In the top stories, government delivers on its promise of good governance and accountability. National security officials review proposals to prevent and reduce crime. And petition to be inducted into the African American Credit Union Hall of Fame. The details on these stories and more after the break.
Can you afford to lose everything? In times of uncertainty, ensure you have the security of Quartz Payment Protection. When you shop with Quartz Ready Finance Gold or Ultimate Plan, if you lose your job after 6 months of making payments, our redundancy coverage ensures that the payment on your account continues for up to 12 months. Don't risk losing everything. Shop with Quartz Ready Finance and get the payment protection plan that protects you against redundancy, disability, death, and loss of item due to natural disaster, fire, flood, or theft. Quartz Ready Finance with payment protection. Quartz, bringing value home.
Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I'm Carla Barrage. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris said that since assuming office in February 2015, the Team Unity administration has stuck to its promise to usher in a new era of good governance and accountability in St. Kitts and Nevis. Appearing on the People's Voice talk show on Sugar City Rock Radio on Monday, February 20th, Prime Minister Harris commented on the statement, adding that people have begun to feel the difference in the country.
There is hopeful enthusiasm that the country is on the right path, that the country is moving in the right direction, and good things are happening. We have ushered in a new era of governance and accountability.
Yes.
We have seen it reflected where each year the government, the cabinet as a whole, goes out and talk with and converse with the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis,
yes,
and hear from them firsthand what is happening in the country. So we continue to educate, to inform, to keep our citizens and residents up to date about all the wonderful things that are happening in the government.
Prime Minister Harris said that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis are of paramount importance, and so the government will continue to work in their best interest to empower them and uplift their standard of living.
The people on the island of Nevis and the people on the island of St. Kitts long yearn for the day that they could feel at home, feel welcome, feel that they were a part, and that neither those on St. Kitts or those on Nevis were being left out of the government agenda. Important. So we are happy to relate to that and to be, as it were, the government that is responsible for that particular activity.
Dr. Harris used the occasion to reflect on the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis and expressed his delight over the Honorable Mark Brantley's recent statement on the said relationship.
I felt a sense of pride to hear Mark Brantley, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, indicated on the WIN Voices program that the relationship was at an all-time high.
Nice.
It was the best ever relationship that the NIA has ever experienced, yes, with any federal cabinet.
Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Officials at the Ministry of National Security are poring over suggestions and recommendations from stakeholder groups as to ways their respective agencies can actively contribute to prevent and reduce crime in St. Kitts and Nevis. The proposals were the main outcomes of the National Crime Reduction Symposium held at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort on February 9th. It was facilitated by crime reduction specialist and international social skills consultant Niels Chaitan, who presented on 12 psychosocial roots of crime. The participants were divided into groups for the practical half of the session. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Osmond Petty, outlined what was expected of the participants.
All of the groups would have responded to the worksheet, which required them to
identify the root of crime which is prevalent or germane to their sphere of interest, profession, to give ideas as to what strategies they would bring to address this root and what strategies would be used to determine over time whether their strategies are working in reducing or preventing crime.
As the ministry staff organizes the proposals from the symposium, suggestions from private individuals and interest groups that did not attend the forum are also being reviewed to include in a larger document. Feedback from previous sessions Dr. Chaitan conducted with community persons, such as persons in conflict with the law, including incarcerated youth and gang members, were also included. While some would have expected some gang members and prison inmates to attend the symposium, Mr. Petty said he took the decision against such due to public safety concerns.
Dr. Chaitam has already had one forum with gang members. He has also spoken with people on the block at Keon who are, if not in gangs, associated with people who are in gangs. So we are able to reflect some of their opinions. It's just that they weren't there at the symposium, and that really was my decision because, as I explained, I didn't really want to expose any person to any security risks.
The recommendations will be compiled into a draft document that will be reviewed by a smaller group and finalized to fit into the Dr. Chaitan EDA approach. EDA stands for Enforcement, Diagnostic, Education and Rehabilitation, and is a four-dimensional approach to prevent and reduce crime. Kiddishan credit unionist Melvin Edwards is being recognized for his global contribution to the credit union industry. Mr. Edwards will be among the first to be inducted into the African American Credit Union Hall of Fame at a ceremony to be held at the Marriott Marquis in Washington, D.C. on February 28th. The African American Credit Union Hall of Fame was created to recognize African Americans and their contributions to the credit union industry, as well as to become a repository for the history of African Americans in the credit union movement. This unique honor is presented by the African American Credit Union Coalition's Funding Development Committee. Melvin R. Edwards is known throughout the Caribbean region and internationally for his outstanding contributions to enabling families and communities of low and average means to access affordable finance and to gain ownership of democratically controlled financial institutions. He is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, Cayfield campus, the University of Wales, Swansea, and Cordy International Institute, Nova Scotia, and has authored numerous published articles and papers, drafted states policies, harmonized legislation for Caribbean jurisdictions, and produced technical manuals on MSMEs, microfinance, credit unions, and business association. Residing in St. Lucia, he is married to Olive Edwards and is a father of 4. Founder partner of Open Interactive, Adam Anderson, has commended the government of St. Kitts and Nevis for adopting a modern approach to leadership after launching an additional 5 applications on the e-government portal. Anderson made the statement while speaking at the recently held e-government mobile applications launch ceremony at OTI on Wednesday.
Everything that evolves and grows and needs nurtured must be led by a government with vision. And so Prime Minister Harris, Attorney General Byron, and all the ministers of government who understand how important it is that our youth have access to technology, that their ideas, that the creativity that they have has a space and place to grow, is a phenomenal achievement. As ICTs are actually leading in St. Kitts now in the region, and how important that is. You deserve a round of applause.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis officially launched the Information and Communication Technologies Governance Board, or e-government portal, on Thursday, February 18, 2016. The newly launched apps include the St. Kitts Shopper app, the SKNIS St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service app, the Crime Reporting app, a Government Directory app, and an Events app. After the break, work to begin soon on construction of East Line Bus Terminal, and Tucker Clark Primary receives a donation from a local business. We'll tell you more when we come back. Minister of Public Infrastructure and Transport, Honorable Ian Liburd, has said that the Team Unity administration will keep its promise of building an East Line bus terminal and that work is soon to begin on the project. Speaking in Parliament on February 16th, Minister Liburd singled out the project as one of the capital projects that the Team Unity administration is committed to doing within its term of office. The Minister of Transport said that he was advised by the Director of Public Works that the government has now entered into a contract of over $200,000 to start the demolition works at the old St. Kitts Sugar Manufacturing Corporation SSMC repair shop, which will be the site for the relocation of the existing Vehicle Maintenance Division of the Public Works, and that the relocation will be completed in the next couple of months. He said that the East Line bus terminal will be located within that same location, north of the Public Works Administration building on Wellington Road. Quote, "We will construct a brand new East Line bus terminal with toilet facilities as a phase 1, and as a phase 2, we will have ancillary areas like shops and restaurants," end quote, Minister Liburd said. Students of the Tucker Clark Primary School are now in a better position when it comes to areas of creative learning, thanks to a donation made by a small business in the Newtown community. The donation of an extra large roll of manila took place on Tuesday at the school's grounds. CEO of Top Class Barbershop, Wendell Nanton, said although the school did not ask for assistance, he felt the need to make the donation.
We just want to make a tremendous donation of this roll of manila paper to Tucker Clark Primary School, that it may do many good works and help in the upliftment of the children, because we need many upliftment of the kids in the days of today. So I just want to donate this roll of manila paper to Mr. Charles, and I pray and hope that more people in the community will come on board and donate in to the various schools in the community. So Mr. Charles, I want to donate this.
Principal of the Tucker Clark Primary School, Sylvester Charles, thanked Mr. Nanton for the donation on behalf of the school.
On behalf of the Tucker Clark Primary School staff, students and parents, I would like to thank Mr. Nanton, who is himself a parent and a part of the PTA of the school, for this very generous donation. I can assure you, sir, that this manila, this roll of manila, never seen it in my life, will be used in the classrooms of the school for all the teachers and the benefit of all the students. And we'd like to have more donations like this in the future. So I'd like to congratulate you and your company and hope that you'll continue to prosper so that you can donate more to the Tucker Clark Primary School.
Mr. Charles said the school is looking forward to collaboration with other local businesses in the future. Premier of Nevis and Minister of Education in the Nevis Island Administration, Honorable Vance Amory, described the newly constructed Joycelyn Liburd Primary School, JLPS, cafeteria in Gingerland as part of the administration's ongoing investment to improve the quality of life of the people of Nevis, in particular the youths. Mr. Amory, who is also the area representative for the St. George's Parish, was at the time delivering an address at the cafeteria's official opening ceremony on February 14th when he made the comment. He told the parents that the administration is not charging the full cost of the meal because the objective is to ensure that students have well-prepared and nutritious meals so that they will be better off in the long run. Minister Amory used the opportunity to commend Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance and Minister of Communication and Works, Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who is also a member of the St. George's Development Committee, for his steadfast role in ensuring the project's successful completion, Mr. Gaskill and his team and other members of the community who assisted in ensuring the project's success. Coming up, CARICOM heads concerned about crime and citizen protection. The details when we come back. Heads of government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, have ended 2 days of intense deliberations on issues such as regional security, correspondent banking, and a review of the CARICOM single market and economy. More in this HTS St. Lucia report.
The heads of government of CARICOM meet regularly to determine and provide policy direction for the region. When they met in Guyana last week, the issue of crime was high on the agenda. Speaking to the media following the 2 days of deliberations, Chair Guyanese President His Excellency David Granger said current regional crime levels are unacceptable. He says the heads have resolved to do more to curb the scourge, including placing greater focus on the social determinants of crime, particularly among the youth.
Our attorneys general, and in the case of those countries which do not have attorneys general, the ministers responsible for legal affairs, will take action to finalize agreements which are essential to the implementation of the regional crime and security agenda. We will be seeking to take full advantage of opportunities for capacity building to address existing and emerging threats, including those related to cybersecurity and cybercrime, crime prevention, and drug demand reduction.
Deliberations also focused on correspondent banking, including the need for urgent regional action to address de-risking by global banks. CARICOM countries will contribute $240,000 to lobbyists to act on behalf of Caribbean-based banks to avoid censure and loss of correspondent banking access.
We consider the strategy and action plan submitted by the Committee of Central Bank Governors, and we've asked the Committee of Ministers of Finance, with responsibility for correspondent financing, to assume the oversight of its rollout. We noted particularly the need to strengthen member states' compliance with the global regulatory standards with regard to anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism and tax transparency information exchange.
President Granger and Grenadian Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell were asked to weigh in on political developments in Dominica that include a public meeting calling for the resignation of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. Dominica's opposition leader led a delegation to Guyana to coincide with the CARICOM meeting, hoping to capitalize on the influx of regional media covering the event. The CARICOM leaders say, however, that they will not intervene.
We received a brief from the Prime Minister and we regard it as an internal matter. I do not think this forum is an appropriate place to discuss what took place, but it is quite possible that the leader of the opposition may not have been explaining or describing precisely what occurred on the streets of Roseau 2 weeks ago.
Any issue that occurs in and the level of country in CARICOM must be settled within that particular local situation. And all we would ask at the level of heads, as I said, I've been in government and I've been in opposition, is that whatever disputes, of course, exist, the resolution of it must be done peacefully.
The leaders also discussed tourism, travel, and technology. They approved the draft roadmap for a single ICT space, which they hope will be a driving force for social and economic development in the community.
Head of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, says he wants to see more visitors at AgroFest. More in this Nation News Barbados report.
CEO of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, wants to see more tourists attending AgroFest. He told Nation News the BAS will be working with tourism players and the cruise lines to make this happen. Mr. Paul was speaking on Thursday on the sidelines of an information session for some of the more than 300 exhibitors. The 13th staging of the agricultural exhibition will run from February 24th to 26th in Queen's Park. Mr. Paul said patrons can expect enhanced animal shows and a large children's play area.
Coming up, 5 dead after plane crashes into Australian Mall, and local language policy stirs debate in Zimbabwe schools. The details when we come back.
Can you afford to lose everything? In times of uncertainty, ensure you have the security of Quartz Payment Protection. When you shop with Quartz Ready Finance Gold or Ultimate Plan, if you lose your job after 6 months of making payments, our redundancy coverage ensures that the payment on your account continues for up to 12 months. Don't risk losing everything. Shop with Quartz Ready Finance and get the payment protection plan that protects you against redundancy, disability, death, and loss of item due to natural disaster, fire, flood, or theft. Quartz Ready Finance with payment protection. Quartz, bringing value home.
Four Americans were among those killed during a plane crash into Australian Mall shortly after takeoff. Here's more.
5 people were killed, including 4 Americans, when a small plane crashed into a shopping center in Australia. According to local police, the aircraft crashed Tuesday morning almost immediately after taking off from an airfield outside Melbourne. The plane's pilot and 4 passengers died at the scene. Authorities say the crash happened about an hour before the mall was scheduled to open, and no one inside the shopping center was injured. The U.S. State Department confirmed in a statement to NBC the 4 passengers on board were Americans. They have yet to be officially identified. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau is investigating, and the cause of the crash is unclear, but police say the pilot made a distress call before the plane went down.
We understand that there potentially was a catastrophic engine failure, but we're unsure at this stage.
And witnesses told local media they saw the plane explode on impact.
I mean, the whole car shook. Like, it was something you'd never felt before. You know, the explosion was so loud.
The government in Zimbabwe has introduced a new school curriculum to teach children in their first language instead of English. But some parents and teachers fear the policy will limit children's chances of getting jobs where English is the main language used. Al Jazeera's Haru Matsapa reports from Harare.
It's a science lesson in Shona, one of Zimbabwe's 16 official languages. The education department says many children in poor schools struggle to learn in English. Subjects like mathematics and computer science are now being taught in local languages in some schools. Officials hope this improves their ability to pass exams.
It promotes their understanding, they understand much better, and they perform better because they can quickly understand, and the teacher is less burden.
It's not a new concept. Schools in regions where English isn't widely spoken have been teaching in local languages for years. The government now wants more institutions across the country to do the same. It's a divisive and controversial issue.
Most of Zimbabwe's indigenous languages are only spoken in southern Africa. Some parents say they want their children taught in English. They feel English is an international language that could help their children find work abroad and make them better candidates for jobs.
When white colonial rule ended in 1980, President Robert Mugabe introduced an education for all policy. Thousands of schools were built across the country and many teachers were trained. Zimbabwe has one of the highest literacy rates in Africa.
As far as I'm concerned, it's pure nonsense.
But some teachers fear teaching children in local languages will bring down standards, and they say sometimes it's not practical.
You are supposed to be teaching these children about some of these gadgets in our local languages. How are you going to be able to say this is a hard drive? What are you going to call it in Shona? So why do we want to reinvent the wheel? A hard drive is a hard drive.
Many school textbooks are in English, so they will need translating. Teachers need training, and local languages have several dialects, which means the process has to be standardized. But teachers like Titus Chikua believe it can be done.
We introduce the word as it is, since we don't have the substitute for that word in our native language.
Zimbabwe's government does not have enough money for education. It's struggling to pay salaries. Some teachers feel the little money there is should be prioritized. But officials in the education department insist more schools will start teaching subjects in local languages so that children who struggle to learn in English won't be left behind. Haru Mutasa, Al Jazeera, Harare.
Up next in sports, Kieran Powell in the mix of things, and champion Leicester City battles EPL regulation. Stay tuned. Nivision Kieran Powell has once again won the nod of the West Indies selectors and has been included in the 15-man training squad, which will represent the West Indies in the upcoming one-day series versus the English touring team. Powell, who took a self-imposed sabbatical from the game a few years ago, was the leading run scorer in the recent WICB Super 50 series. The 15-man squad will have a camp in the build-up to the 3-match rubber against the visitors. The squad will arrive in Antigua later this week and will work under the guidance of new head coach Stuart Law. Meanwhile, the West Indies selectors also announced a 12-man team that will represent the WICB Board 11 in a practice match versus the Tourists, which is slated for Warner Park in St. Kitts on Monday, 27th February. That team will be led by Leeward Islands wicket-keeper batsman Jamar Hamilton. English champion football team Leicester City will play in the knockout stages of the UEFA Championships League for the first time on Wednesday when players visit Spain's Sevilla. But all is not well with the team, which made headlines as one of the greatest sporting underdogs just a few months ago. The team was knocked out of the FA Cup by third-tier Millwall and is under threat of regulation from the Premier League. Al Jazeera's Lee Wallings reports from Leicester.
They were fearless and unstoppable. Leicester City winning the Premier League last year is one of the most remarkable stories in the history of sport, celebrated across the globe. But miracles tend to raise expectations.
In May last year, the city was full of euphoric, delirious Leicester fans celebrating their extraordinary triumph. But that joy has been replaced by quiet trepidation, the fear of relegation. The club are just one place, 1 point above the dreaded Premier League relegation zone.
I returned to the market at the heart of the city to ask what the fans think has gone wrong.
Wrong format, messing around with the players, just not
The same players though as last year?
Same players, but playing them in the positions where they're not comfortable.
The players' wages changed. Maybe it's gone to their heads.
When they got on the roll last year, everything worked. You know, we were saying, if you remember Jamie Vardy's goal against Liverpool, it was ridiculous. But it's the sort of thing you can only do when everything's going your way.
Vardy went from journeyman striker to England international and hero. His form has gone. Algerian Riyad Mahrez is no longer playing like African Footballer of the Year. These heroes stayed at Leicester, and manager Claudio Ranieri has shown faith in them. But the magic has gone. The bigger, richer clubs worked out how to stop them. On Saturday, they were humiliated in the FA Cup by Millwall, 2 divisions below. But what seems harsh, almost outrageous, is speculation Ranieri will be sacked.
Does that sadden you, anger you? Does it show that football is a crazy business?
No, it's a football, normal business. Everything is a story. If we go back in 10 years, 20 years old, it's the same.
You're going to put this right?
I love this job. I love.
The club's Thai owners have reassured him his job is safe, for now. But this is Leicester. There's a twist. Winning the league meant Champions League football, and they have succeeded in Europe. They won their group, reached the knockout stage, and faced Sevilla in the first leg in Spain.
Do you reckon they might win the Champions League?
But what this modest club from the English East Midlands proved last year is that anything is possible. Lee Wellings, Al Jazeera, Leicester.
Public opposition is stalling an Olympic bid from Budapest, Hungary. That means Los Angeles could go one-on-one with Paris to host the 2024 Games.
The U.S. is one step closer to hosting the Olympics again. A Hungarian political movement against a 2024 Olympic bid in Budapest has over 260,000 signatures. That's well over what they need to force a referendum. If that referendum happens, there's a good chance voters will reject Budapest's Olympic bid. That already happened to Hamburg, Germany in 2015. Referendums also struck down 2 other Winter Olympic bids in recent years. But what's bad news for Budapest is good news for Los Angeles. LA and Paris would be the only cities left if Budapest drops out, and the City of Angels has plenty going for it. This includes history. The Games have been in LA twice, most recently in 1984. That Olympics was a big success, turning a profit of $225 million. The city's 2024 bid is pretty similar, with a wide geographic footprint that relies on existing venues instead of expensive new structures. There's still a lot that needs to happen before the Games would come to LA. The International Olympic Committee isn't deciding until September, but one fewer opponent is likely good news for organizers.
When we come back, we'll have another look at the stories that made the headlines. Recapping the top stories, government delivers on its promise of good governance and accountability. National security officials receive proposals to prevent and reduce crime. Petition to be inducted into the African American Credit Union Hall of Fame. And that's the end of the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Barrage. Goodbye.